Coming up on Mountain News this morning, the Commonwealth and many other states received bomb threats at the state capitol, causing a stir across the nation. And we got the first look at the bills Kentucky lawmakers are considering for this session.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News this morning.
Good morning, I'm Olivia Calfee. We're just past 6:30 on January 4th. Now let's check in with meteorologist Shane Smith for a look at your forecast this morning. It's a chilly start to the day, a good day for a hot cup of coffee and a big coat, that's for sure.
Absolutely, Olivia. It is very cold out there. I know I had the old big Carhartt jacket on this morning as I walked out the door. Wind was still almost cutting through me. Very, very cold out there when wind chills running in the mid-20s in a lot of spots. We're dry for most of the area right now as we take a look at the satellite and radar picture. There were a few snow showers overnight down along the Kentucky-Virginia border, and we're tracking a few flurries and a little bit of light snow trying to fire back up just south of Highway 80. Now here's a quick look at Pinpoint Doppler, tracking some of the heavier precipitation just to the south of Mousy, west of Dorton, over towards Weeksbury. Also a few light snow showers from Hazard down towards Viper and Leatherwood. Cumberland seeing a little bit of light snow, also over into southern Leslie County, over around Cutchin and Wooten. Temperatures are into the 30s. Most of our Skycam network is dry. The snow that is falling is very light. Light snow showers and flurries in a few spots, but for most of us, we are dry. Pine Mountain's still dry right now, 27 degrees up there right now. We are going to see those temperatures go from the low to mid 30s into the upper 30s today. They're not going to change too much, although those wind chills are going to feel colder than the air temperature all day. So folks are going to want to bundle up as they head out the door. We're watching for a potent system this weekend, though, that's looking more like a rainmaker than a wintry maker, Olivia, and then an even stronger storm system heads our way next week. Details in the forecast here in a few.
Shane, thank you. Governor Andy Beshear says the state of the Commonwealth is stronger than it's ever been. He delivered his State of the Commonwealth address last night. He looked ahead to Kentucky's future, highlighting his budget proposal. Grayson Passamore has the highlights from the address.
Less than a month after being sworn in for his second term, Governor Andy Beshear delivered his annual State of the Commonwealth address, where he began and repeatedly stated the Commonwealth is stronger than it has ever been.
No pandemic, no tornado, no flood, or any other challenge will ever change that. How we dealt with these historic challenges wasn't red or blue. It wasn't R or D. It was just us, Team Kentucky, where everybody matters.
Throughout the address, Beshear recognized educators, healthcare workers, and several Good Samaritans for their work over the past 4 years. He restated parts of his proposed budget that would offer millions more in funding in areas like disaster relief, workforce development, and education. His proposals for funding universal pre-K and an 11% across-the-board raise to educators earned standing applause from some.
Our competition to the north and the south are showing us the way. But this budget opportunity is our chance to make things right here in Kentucky. Let's work together to get it done in this session.
A few hours earlier, Senate President Robert Stivers and House Speaker David Osborne held a joint press conference providing a small look into what their proposed budget may hold. While they say education will be a priority, they say they won't mandate across-the-board raises.
I believe that those are decisions best made at the local level. But I do think that you will see us again contribute significant funding that local officials will have the ability to utilize that money, and I certainly believe and hope that they will use that money to give teacher raises.
Stivers says there's also not much appetite in either chamber for funding universal pre-K.
We all know that we have to be competitive with our sister states. We have to be competitive with the private sector, and there will be a need for the local level officials, school boards and superintendents, to have the tools to which to be competitive with.
Stivers and Osborne said you can expect their budget to be filed within a week or two. At the Capitol, Grayson Passmore, WKYT.
On the second day of the General Assembly session, we learned about dozens of bills that have already been filed. At the top of lawmakers' priorities is the budget, but lawmakers will debate on bills concerning the state's near-total abortion ban, speeding in construction zones, banning the sales of cats and dogs in pet stores, and legalizing recreational marijuana.
Would be the Kentucky SAFE Act, the crime bill that Jared Bauman has worked on. I think that will probably get one of those ceremonial numbers.
House Bill 51 would require public schools to obtain parental approval for participation in certain questionnaires and activities, and it has not been filed yet, but we are likely to see a constitutional amendment which would let voters decide on school choice issues. An unsettling start to the second day of the 2024 legislative session. The Kentucky State Capitol was one of at least 14 state capitals to receive a bomb threat. After hours of investigation, state police gave the all clear. Jeremy Toms has more details from the office that received the threat.
Wednesday marked day 2 for Kentucky's legislative session. One that quickly became anything but ordinary.
Shortly before our office opened, we received an email from an unknown individual with an unknown account.
Secretary of State Michael Adams says the email they received also went to several others in his position across the country.
Red states, blue states. It's not obvious to us what the politics, if any, of the person who made this threat are.
But it led to lockdowns or evacuations in Michigan, Mississippi, and at least 12 other states, including Kentucky. After several hours, the all clear was given in Frankfort.
Well, first us, the state workers, and then the public.
The text of the email reads that explosives are well hidden inside the Capitol and that, quote, "I will make sure you all end up dead." Secretary Adams notes those spelling errors are no reason to dismiss such a serious threat.
It doesn't mean that they don't have the capacity to hurt people. We can't have a situation where we don't act and then someone is harmed. We can't have that.
So Adams says he's grateful for the quick actions that law enforcement took Wednesday morning.
They came in courageously and they promptly cleared us back into the Capitol. So I want to commend the governor and everyone involved for getting on this promptly.
Jeremy Toms, WKYT.
The FBI has since determined that these threats were a hoax. No explosives were found in any of these incidents. We are continuing to watch the political filings in Kentucky. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley filed for president in Kentucky's May Republican primary. She joins former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and businessman Vivek Ramaswamy on Kentucky's GOP ballot so far. Frontrunner former President Donald Trump has not filed in Kentucky yet. Congressman Hal Rogers now has 3 opponents in the primary. Several incumbent Eastern Kentucky state senators and representatives have filed and have no opposition so far. Democrat Zachary Hall of Hazard filed yesterday in the 84th District for state representative. Incumbent Republican Chris Fugit is also running. The filing deadline is this Friday. Outgoing Attorney General Daniel Cameron has already figured out what his next endeavor will be. Cameron has been named the Chief Executive Officer for the nonprofit organization, the 1792 Exchange. In a release, the organization says they seek to preserve freedom by partnering with allies to steer public companies back to neutral on divisive ideological issues. Cameron will join organization president Paul Fitzpatrick in leading the charge. With tragic events taking place in schools all too often, the need for strengthened security is an issue. This is why Perry County Schools Safety Coordinator Harvey Caldwell believes 3D scanning technology like the Pharaoh will be a huge upgrade in the school district's security. Having access to 3D model layouts of each school will direct first responders to the best course of action for any emergency.
Safety of students and staff is number one. Without that, there is no education of our students. So, this year, coming into this year, I felt like we needed to, there's always ways to improve.
Hazard Police Major Zach Miller says several HPD officers will begin training using Faro next week. Miller adds they hope to map Perry County schools this summer. A story we brought you earlier this week is getting a lot of attention. We told you that someone has been dumping dead dogs in the Daniel Boone National Forest in McCreary County. A woman we talked to says it looked like they were euthanized, frozen, then dumped. Right now, we're still working to learn more about who is responsible. Both Kentucky State Police and the Forest Service are investigating. If you know anything, you're asked to contact the U.S. Forest Service. And to see the full story, you can go to WYMT.com. Sunday marks the 32nd anniversary of an unsolved murder in Bell County, and state police are asking for your help to get some answers. On January 7th, 1992, 24-year-old Greta Henson was found dead at her home in Middlesboro. Police say she was shot 5 times in the back of the head. If you have any information, you should contact KSP's Post 10's new cold case detective Jim Whitaker at 606-573-3131.
6:42 now, time for another check of the forecast, and we are seeing dry conditions for most of the mountains this morning. 32 outside the WYMT studio. Had a few flakes flying earlier in Pikeville. That, excuse me, has since calmed down. We're down to 31 right now, 28 over at UVA Wise under mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures generally in the mid to low 30s right now. Satellite and radar shows a little bit of that snow action from earlier. And here is Pinpoint Doppler live. And you can see it is picking up on a little bit of that light snow in the highest of elevations. Right now, most of that centered right along 119 from Jenkins down to Harlan. So we'll keep a close eye on that. A chilly start to your morning. Factor in the winds, it's feeling even colder than that. It's feeling like mid-20s for most of us. Now, after a little wintry weather this morning, the question is, will we see some accumulation this weekend? We'll talk about that coming up here in a few minutes.
Thanks, Shane, and thank you for joining us. The time is now 6:43. Still to come on Mountain News this morning. The border crisis continues as both sides are struggling to reach a deal for funding.